We're back with some hot takes. I put out a tweet and it says drop a hot take and I will potentially use it for an upcoming video. You don't have to believe it. This is for those guys that are extra pretentious. Putting out some hot takes can just be entertaining so we can see how people react to them in this video. I'll go first. The Battle 2.7 update is overall good and is increasing the skill gap between good and bad players. I do this every so often, so definitely give me a follow on Twitter/X, Zakashi with 3 eyes at the end, and I only take responses when I put out a tweet. So have my post notifications on so that when I next do a hot take video, you can be involved. Now regarding my hot take, I genuinely believe this is the case. A lot of people think that the game is absolutely dead and explosive greens just control the whole game. You could argue they have more of an advantage now, but if you literally play as normal, most characters get their advantage back, but you literally just have to be a lot more preemptive in your decision making, which means the better you are as a player, the better results you will get because you are expecting certain plays to be made, which gets you one above your enemy, which I've proved in a lot of my previous videos while also dropping a guide explaining how easy it is to counter this update and players who are super passive knowing that they can't actually apply skill. Let's get into this. Alright, so we got this hot take here from Correlax, Rilaco 3. Backfloat was a fundamentally broken mechanic pre-nerf. 0 resource, 0 risk, at worst returning you to a safe neutral state and maximum reward allowing a PV or a distance to react to cards with RR/blast armor, etc. Much needed nerf, but job ain't done. Green cards next. I'm gonna go neutral on this. I thought about this immediately and I was like, damn, there's some good points made here. But I wouldn't say it was fundamentally broken, but I can see how somebody could argue it was. The reason I don't think it's broken is because you don't get penalized for also moving forward. So if you say this, you'd have to argue that moving forward, which engages gameplay, is also fundamentally broken because there's no cost in movement. Ki is not being drained for flying or anything like that. It's the base state. And then if you were going to reduce Ki as a penalty, well, some people don't actually fly, they use jetpacks and stuff. So I don't think that's necessary, honestly, to say that it was fundamentally broken. But it was going scot-free, you could say, especially with how you can use that to your advantage. But that's also a skill factor in the game. So I can see one argument for people saying, oh, well, it depends on how you use it. And a lot of people don't use it because it requires you to do fast movements with movements that are not exactly the smoothest. You have to like drag down, not a swipe, but drag down. So you have to be calm in a state of active engagement and get out of that situation to overcome your enemy. So you could say that's worthy of reward, but you could also say doing that because you're able to get such an overpowered play such as a rising rush, you know, the maximum reward is way too much for such a simple play. So I could see both sides, which is why I have to go neutral on this. I could feel people arguing either way, saying that from the time the game came out, this was a problem. So I'm gonna go neutral, but if you're asking me personally, I don't actually agree. But I'm gonna go neutral because I can see both sides. Exodus Yami here, he says, they should have nerfed long range camping, not mid range backfloating. They literally nerfed people for playing good. The long range PV was a good update though. I agree, I think this is very easily agreeable. Most people would agree too. The idea of going short to mid range, going back floating should not be penalized at all, and that could be the small difference from a win or a loss, especially with the existence of explosive greens. There's literally no way to get around that but to risk basically getting caught. And of course you can still get around it, you just have to be a lot more preemptive, which is very much increasing the skill ceiling. But that doesn't make it a good update necessarily, but you can of course play around it. Overall, the update was good. The long range PV update was good. I agree completely. Taking that away makes it so that people can't just rely on staying long range, and it's going to force people to engage. Because if I throw out a blast, I'm not going to get penalized for them PV fishing, and that's amazing. But definitely the short to mid range thing, I think everybody can agree that's just terrible, because those small cases where you do need to float back or go back, you shouldn't get penalized for it. Even though hard back dashing you still can, but that keeps you stuck because you can't do anything in that time frame. So overall, good update, but this short to mid range, they sold there, I'm not gonna lie. Got a take here from Drew, Bulbos Drew. Not sure how hot or cold this is, but I'll say it. Ultra Margin Vegeta is still top 3 best in the game and has top 2 potential. He is still dominant and still runs the game, especially if you aren't running a red unit like Gotenks or Zamasu. I am going to agree, but only in individual value. I think if you consider teams, there's a lot more formations that could make his value lesser. But if you put units up based on their individual kit value, still easily a top 3 unit in my opinion, and I don't think that that's a hot take. This guy here on his own has so much to offer. Fair enough, his damage is not as high as it was in its peak because he's not on the boost, and fair enough, his defense is also applied the same way, but that doesn't change the value in his kit, bro. That value from his kit, the explosive green, the lock-in, on a 1v1, it's long, you know. He's very, very valuable in that sense, but I'll only agree. I'm going to put agreeable, but only in terms of his individual value. But as a team unit, I think there's a lot better combinations that you can come up with to make sure that this guy isn't top 3 very easily too. But I'm gonna agree, you know, just for the controversy. We got a hot take here from Big Gus. Can't read that out because that's insane. Another battle update is needed before the end of this year or the game is in trouble. I just disagree. People say this every year with like everything that happens. You know, they do something, they release a unit, or the game's ending, game's over, the game's broken, DBL's over. It never happens. It just never happens. It just never happens. So I'm not even gonna spend a lot of time on this. It's just not needed. But what I will say is, if they did release one, it would refine the changes that they made to make it actually straight, or just, you know, not good enough. They'll either make it worse or better. So if they did do another battle update doesn't necessarily mean it'll be a good battle update. They could make more mistakes, you know? So saying this needed, definitely not the way I would put it. So I'm gonna disagree. But I will say that for sure, they could need one. Just revert back that short to mid-range backfloat. You know, I personally don't want that penalty. I don't want that penalty. It doesn't need to be there for the short to mid-range. But going back to long range, where the perfect vanishes were nerfed in the first place, makes the most sense. We got a hot take here from Ascended Mike. This unit's value has skyrocketed a lot now thanks to this update we have. Agreeable, very easily agreeable, mainly because of his explosive green. But I don't even want to talk about his explosive green specifically. God Goku has just been a threat to me. I don't know about you guys, but to me, oh my god, this guy hurts. His blue card does so much damage. His ult is an absolute nuke, and it's very easy for him to get a priority. Like, having explosive green, he's just one above everybody else, and I think he blocks AoE greens too. That platinum equipment saved this guy life, I'm not even gonna lie. Boy, he's pressure. His ultimate always did damage, always. Even before the plat, and he was mid back then. But now he got the plat, he hit him for numbers, bro. Crazy work from this guy. You think he's a Dokkan unit the way he's hitting for numbers. God Goku, very, very valuable unit. Every time I come up against him, I make sure to play carefully, because once that blue card hits me, 2 of those taking out your health. Sometimes 1. You gotta be very careful. No matter who you're using. I could be using Beast, I can be using Daimaku. This guy got hit a blue card, I'm cooked. We got a hot take from Dat Boy J. The losing vanish floating back from close range to mid range is so trash. It feels like I'm playing PvP in a box without no freedom. It's unfortunate because the PV change is great, but it feels like the gameplay actually got worse to me. I'm gonna say agreeable because your main point is talking about the close to mid range. I already spoke about this earlier in this video, but I wanted to elaborate on this. I would have just stopped the recording now because I already touched on this. But I wanted to elaborate on this part where it says, playing PvP in a box with no freedom. Now, I've been pushing this idea, well, I think it's the truth though, that playing PvP right now, you need way more skill to compete. Obviously, if you're going for the passive gameplay with explosive greens, you're playing like a rat. But then, if you're able to overcome that, the skill ceiling you've reached is even higher than what we had before. Now, this part specifically where he says, it feels like I'm playing PvP in a box without no freedom, is so true. The PvP right now feels so suffocating because you have to engage. It's forced you to engage, and even the penalization for just close to mid-range floating backwards forces you to engage because people are scared that they're gonna lose their gauge and won't be able to vanish. But if you're thinking vanish first, that's why you feel suffocated. That's why it feels like such a tight space. That freedom factor has been stripped because your mentality is vanish first, attack second. My mentality is attack first, vanish second, and that's why I'm able to play easier. At first, on the first day, I'm not gonna lie, I did feel that intense chokehold, But now it's very smooth and normal to me because I still backflow and I just don't give a damn. I just play aggressive and it doesn't feel like that. But I completely understand what you're feeling, because on that first day I was dealing with the backflow. I was like, whoa, it really feels like anything I do I can get penalized for it. I'm going to lose a priority, and that makes it feel like I have no freedom at hand, for sure. But there's nothing wrong with being a vanish first player as long as you don't have an overwhelming advantage with perfect vanishes. So I think in general, what they should do is just return the floating close range to mid range. Maybe even remove perfect vanishes at mid range, but that might be too much in my opinion. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, maybe even add something new for like characters, where melee characters, they can get perfect vanishes at mid range, but then range type characters not, because they benefit off the blast art. That could be something that we could see that could be useful. But I really understand why you feel like that, because I felt like that on the first day, but I'm out of that state. You just gotta aggress more, bro. Your mindset is definitely vanish first, though. I know that for a fact. We got a hot take here from Vegito72. While I want to believe the change to the battle system is good, punishing players for backing up slightly from close to mid-range is dumb and promotes little Timmy spamming cards mid-range, especially strike cards and AoE greens is dumb. Long-range PV removal was the only W in my opinion. Another agreeable take, but I wanted to talk on this as well, because you see the mid-range strike, the mid-range little Timmys spamming cards from mid-range. I have no problem with that. I'm not gonna lie. I've always loved that idea of a mid-range strike. I love it. Mid-range blast, mid-range blue, heck, long-range ultimate. I'm that type of player that's gonna do stuff that nobody's expecting to be done because it will work in that scenario. A lot of people think it's a no skill play. Well, it worked on you, didn't it? The reason it works is because you're not expecting it, and that makes it skillful. The highest plays are the plays you don't expect. Things that only Unreal players can do. But I understand, because these players that are doing those plays aren't doing it because they're 10,000 IQ. They're just doing it because they don't know what else to do. But nonetheless, if it hits you, it hits you, so you gotta lock in. And I think that's good. It forces engagement, and even a high IQ player has to play at the speed of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, and that makes the game overall more active. But overall, I agree. You know, the AoE green card long range PV removal was a W. That's overall right, but I just wanted to talk on that as well. I thought it was really funny. We've got a hot take here from Budokai. Though this update was positive, the game still needs to add new combat mechanics to vary playstyle. I really hate passive players, but they still need to exist. The way we can have players with many different strategies to use in PvP, making the mode more enjoyable and vivid. I couldn't agree more. This is a perfect way to describe what we have in PvP. I hate passive players as well, but they just got all the benefits with very little risk previously. Now they've made an active change to counter the passive players, and you can still be somewhat passive depending on what units you use, and you can go about it in the right way, but at the same time you can also play around the passive, because a lot of people have to be aggressive now. It doesn't promote passive play. You can still be passive, but being aggressive is a lot more common now, which is good. So overall, this here addressing the vast amount of playstyles that should be allowed and necessary in PvP is what's key. But I want to also point out that just because there is a vast amount of strategies doesn't mean they will all be used, because it's very difficult to make all the strategies somewhat equal so that they could be used. Most people are going to stick to meta, and if being aggressive is the meta, they're going to use that, and for a long time being passive has been the meta. So that means people staying long range, people staying mid range and doing sidesteps now is a safer play, so people are going to opt in for the safer play. Not everybody can play the aggressive way, not everybody wants to as well. So there's that mix between people that want to be aggressive and people that are forced to be aggressive, then people that want to be passive because that's how they like to play, versus people being passive because it's just the meta. It's a real discussion that could be had for multiple directions, and it's not as easy as you guys deem it to be, saying that the devs do wrong and things like that. Budokai hasn't said that personally. He said overall the update was positive, but if you look at it from different lenses, how do you even implement multiple strategies that people would want to use over the others, you know? they would just use multiple. There's 2, aggressive or passive in most cases, but if they added multiple somehow, how would they even implement them, have them all be equal so that people don't just choose to be passive? It's not as easy as people just want it to be, and if they're able to accomplish even anything similar to that, even just having aggressive be more as valuable as passive play, that's a big change, and I think they've already done that. They've already done that, and I think that's why it's a successful update overall. We got a take here from StevoDG_YT. Couldn't have said it better. This update in general is great for players who know how to adapt and adjust. I agree here. I find a lot of Dragon Ball Legends players don't like change. They do not like change. They hate it. They want change, but then when the change comes, they dislike it. Somebody's going to be hearing this and be like, no, we don't dislike change. We just dislike this update. Really and truly, you can play the same way. I've showed this already in videos. You can play the same way by floating backwards. You just gotta preemptively do it so you don't put yourself in risky scenarios. Honestly, adapting to something is also not impossible, but a lot of people don't like doing that. They're so comfortable in their normal environment. I do understand the perspective of just disliking it and not being one to adapt and adjust, well, not being afraid of adapting and adjusting, sorry. But I don't think that's the case. I really don't think that's the case. People complained immediately because they felt like, oh, AoE green cards are going to be the bane of existence. But I've played PvP a lot and they're not as threatening as people were making it out to be day one. You can literally get around it very simply by even floating forward, something that people are mindlessly forgetting. You can very easily adjust. The no skill warriors are showing themselves. So Stevo, thank you for this hot take. For players that know how to adjust, amazing. But if you don't know, that's a skill issue as well, and that's probably why you don't like the update. We got a hot take here from Mr. Soupstar, and just looking at it, it's something different. It doesn't have to be on the PvP update, which is really nice. Hot take: 2024 was satisfactory as the year of GT. It had all LFs for 3 main villains, an Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, a Platinum equipment for Ultra Omega Shenron, and an LF Universal Spirit Bomb Goku. I don't know what else they could have released besides Super Saiyan 4 Goku, maybe. I can agree for the idea of representation, but outside of that, they fumbled. Because if it was a year of GT, they need to be the most valuable thing, and in terms of value, they wasn't. They just wasn't. In terms of visuals, they had a lot of releases, which was good. They didn't drop a Super Saiyan 4, which is crazy, but they did drop a Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, like a Super Saiyan 4 Goku or Vegeta, I meant. They did drop the Fusion Warrior, but then they killed him off, you know? So I guess GT did get their representation, so that's why I agree. But that's if you're looking at it from that perspective. If you're looking at it from the perspective of them being the most valuable thing, it was nowhere near close. And I think that's what made it the most disappointing thing for them, because you know they're not getting a bunch of buffs for a long time. Especially with Daima being confirmed to be a reincarnation of GT and all its mistakes. Oh my, GT is so over. It's so over. So I would have loved for them to be a lot more powerful, a lot more valuable, and I think everybody can agree. If they're not a GT fan, they can even acknowledge that GT got snubbed. But they did have a lot of representation, which is why I can agree here. But that's very one line view perspective, you know. You gotta look at it from multiple angles, and the most apparent angle for most people is that they weren't exactly meta the whole year round, given that they got so many buffs. That's a shame. But for representation, I guess they look pretty and they got the units, the characters that are from that series. We got a hot take here from Atlas_DBL. Hot take: Beast Gohan should have got Margin Vegeta's kit, because there is no way a Beast Gohan is fairly balanced and a Vegeta unit is this oppressive. Although Vegeta got the respect he deserved, but it's a little overboard. I agree. This is very agreeable. No, I disagree. My bad. I almost got someone angry. First off, saying Beast Gohan should have got Margin Vegeta's kit is crazy, because you're asking for 2 Margin Vegetas. Even if you swap them, I don't think a unit should have Margin Vegeta's kit in the first place. This bit here, Vegeta did get the respect, and it is overboard. A little is an understatement in my opinion, but it's overboard for sure. But saying Beast is a balanced unit is only in context of what is actually the case. If Beast Gohan dropped in the anniversary, right, the 6th anniversary, he would not be a balanced unit. He would not be a balanced unit. Imagine running him with Fusing Super Vegito 3 rising rushes, and a special beam cannon that can take out anybody unless you have comeback or what's it called? Revival, you know, something like that. Nobody be calling him balanced. The only reason he's balanced is because he has to go up against all that second life stuff, the endurance, the survivability, the combo breaking. He is the only answer for that, or the best answer to that, let's say. And because of that, he can be perceived as balanced. But what's actually in his kit is far too insane to be called balanced. So I have to disagree, because most of this tweet is just in the wrong perspective. You know, if you take away the context, Beast is not balanced. If you put in the context, Beast is very balanced. And I guess being balanced is depending on what meta you exist in. And that's obviously the case. Beast isn't exactly suffocating. You know, you can use units to counter him. But when you're using him, he can also be him. He can be that. So yeah, it's really a perspective thing, but I have to disagree. We got a hot take here from Dectism. Super Saiyan Mini Goku can be top 3 units in the game if we get more diamond stuff like Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta that cover his weakness. The damage and the toxic locking blue is gonna make him age amazingly. I agree actually. Daima is already a crazy team. I've been using Daima right now, yeah. Just for fun, I use Tamagami 3. This Goku here, the mini one, Super Saiyan, and I also use the green Daima Goku. I use those 3. And boy, I be putting in work against every unit. Just every unit. It's crazy. They don't have anything special. So like the lack of blast armor is a downside on the 2 units. I think Tamagami actually has it. But in general, they don't do anything special. They just have a clean, nice kit. Tamagami 3 tanks. Goku here, of course he locks in, but the free-to-play is a free-to-play, so I'm already a step back, but it's enough. Just enough. So imagine they add the Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta Mini, and if they make him crazy, I think they should make him blue, because that blue Goku ain't nothing, man. He ain't nothing. They make this guy blue, or they make him yellow. Any of those, so that Margin Vegeta can't be run alongside this guy, because that's 2 yellows. You know, people will still find a way, but it'll be less likely, especially with Super Saiyan Goku Mini here. You know, this is agreeable. This is agreeable. The damage and the toxic locking blue is going to make him age amazingly. I can't wait, man. Daima is so good. He's so good. Just thinking about it. Daima is so good, man. We got a hot take here from Insina. Or is it Inkina? I'm assuming Insina. I think the combination of the new 17 and 18 units, so I'm assuming the 1% Sparkings, will join the UGB Blue Beast Red Pan and UGB Ultra Goku Black Rose. So that's UGB is Ultra Gogeta Blue, UGB is Ultra Goku Black Rose, Zamasu level of good when Ultra Cell drops. Now, this is a hot take. This is a hot take. And honestly, I have to disagree, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. In fact, I think you're right, but the team isn't popular enough. A big factor for these other units being especially headlining is because they hold at least one super popular character. To your surprise, and Cell in general, sorry, not Ultra Cell. Cell in general is my favorite antagonist. But Cell is not one of the most popular antagonists, never mind characters, in the whole Dragon Ball franchise, contrary to what your perspective is. I think you can look this up. There's a poll that was done in Japan, and he was one of the least popular characters in his own saga. Not least, but like on the lower end, which is crazy. Now this team, you've got Beast, Gogeta Blue and Beast. Superhero being new, Pan is just going to be popular. This team is insane, and Pan's already insane, so that speaks for itself. Ultra Gogeta Blue, Rose, and Zamasu. These 2 specifically, popular as hell. And on top of that, they're good. Now, 17 and 18 as 1% Sparkings, they're already not as popular, you know. They're not as popular in general, but as 1% Sparkings, it's even worse on them. And then Ultra Cell to back them as a trio. Androids is good. We also just got MVP 17 plat from the speculation at the time making this video. It's Monday the what? My bottom bar's not working. It's Monday the 24th. I have to disagree, man. I can't agree with this. But I think you could be right. The team just won't get the spotlight it deserves. I hope you have the 17 and 18, and I hope you enjoy. If Ultra Cell is amazing, that trio there you cooked, man. And I'll be so happy for you. I'll be so happy for you. But I just have to disagree for the safety. We have a hot take here from AIM. Hot take. Ultra Gogeta Blue and MVP 17 are the reason why the meta is what it is today, due to them introducing counter gauges and permanent endurance. It's crazy considering they dropped back to back. Now, what I will say is I can agree. They were like the start. They were trying to implement things. And with this direction they took, they started adding it to almost every single unit that we get, you know. And because of that, it's caused a wildfire in releasing things, then countering them. Releasing things, then countering them. Releasing things, then countering them. MVP 17 lasted a whole year, and now every unit gets a kit like that and doesn't even last 6 months. So when he started, he was that, bruh. He was so valuable, but now that every unit can get that, it's not exactly as valuable, but it's still the top of the crop, which is crazy to say. So honestly, they are the spawn, but I'm not going to necessarily say they're the core, especially with Ultra Gogeta Blue. Counter gauges for sure, but it could have been anybody. But MVP 17, with how long he lasted, these guys both lasted actually really long. I think Gogeta Blue lasted almost 2 years, if not 2 years, and this guy lasted a year. And now he's making a comeback at the time of making this video. The timing is crazy. So yeah, I think this is just agreeable. You know, it's a good start point as well, and you can really just see how the game has developed since these guys have dropped. We got a hot take here from Shadow's Glock. Hot take. Top 10 really doesn't matter, as it is 80% subjective and varies from person to person. The idea that a character needs to be in the top 10 or is unusable is a trash mindset to have. Even characters that aren't seen as top 10 can still be used, but people just ignore them. This isn't really a hot take, it's agreeable because it's correct, it's objectively correct. There aren't only 10 units being used, and that's shown because it's subjective. Like you said, everybody can have their own opinion. But even if a unit hadn't, even if there was a subjective top 10, playstyle and how you play also takes a factor. So even if you're using a unit that isn't, say there was an objective top 10, which there isn't. If there was an objective top 10, a unit that is 11, 16, and 19 could be a better combination than any combination you could make in the objective top 10. But those units are just so buns by themselves and don't actually support units with better kits. You know, it's really depending on how you play. Like right now, I'm using a team, Beast Gohan, Fusing Super Vegito, and Yellow GB. When I use Yellow GB, it's skill oriented. I land a green card that's a free body. With Beast Gohan, because you fight him a lot, I use Fusing Super Vegito. I rush before I transform. With Fusing Super Vegito. He hits me, and then I hit my Synchro, I get my health back. And then Beast Gohan, he's in his own protection, you know. But he's also insane offensively with the Special Beam Cannon. Fusing Super Vegito and Yellow GB, a lot of people don't see as top 10. But because of how I use them, I can get around anybody. And that's amazing. But nobody's going to say they're necessarily top 10. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's all really just a subjective matter. And the combinations of units will also affect playstyle and experiences in PvP. So you're so correct, but it's not really a hot take. I just wanted to go overboard and explain the idea. This is going to be the last take for this video. We got a take from the drink at Super Gogeta 77. Sparking Super Trunks is as good as LF Super Saiyan 2 / Super Saiyan 3 Goku in terms of overall performance, because he is a better color, better defense, hard hitting ult, and also better animations as a cherry on top. You're going that far, and I like this as an actual hot take, because a lot of people are going to be like, oh, no, that's impossible. Super Saiyan 2 3 Goku's a top 2-3 unit. Let's actually address this. The defenses, you got it, bro. Animations, I don't think it's ridiculous. Better color, for sure, for sure. Being red that's beautiful right now. And then overall performance, subjective. Because I really feel like when you're using Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, I don't have him, but when people are fighting me using him, I feel like, oh man, I might as well put my phone down. Here comes the infinite combo. So overall performance, I don't want to agree. But everything else, I like the animations, I like the color. He has an ult where Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3 doesn't, because he's a transforming unit. So that was kind of like a favoritism thing. How you mentioned the ult and the other unit doesn't have one. You know, I'm going to end this on a neutral. I'm gonna end this on a neutral to end the video. You guys be the decider of this one in the comment section. That's going to be the end of the video. I hit a lot of the hot takes in this video, and I liked all of them, honestly, whether I disagreed or agreed with them. Some people were stretching the bounds, which I want to see more of going forward in the future. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. There will be more in the future, so definitely follow me on Twitter like I said at the start. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name is Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.